This crap. I've already lost one die. Oh shit.
Yeah, don't lose any of mine.
Hello everybody, this is Idiot Vegan. Welcome to Backgammon Made Complicated. We are continuing through the New England Backgammon Club's March 2024 monthly tournament. This is the Open Division main draw in the semifinals. As I mentioned in the last video, the quarterfinals against Dougie Roberts were not recorded.
I have to win.
So we've got the match in the round of 16 against Steve, and now this in the semifinals. Playing against Marty Storr, whose pedigree is a mile long. Marty is a Grandmaster G1, author, editor of USBGF. I'm a guy who's been doing YouTube for about 3 weeks. So I have my work cut out for me, and Marty starts with a 5-1. Or rather, I start out with a 5-1, Marty follows up with the 5s, and now I have a 4-3 to play. After entering, I can either step up or play down to the 10-point, and in this case, because Marty's got 3 points in his board and I've got 1, this is something where I need to start developing. Even the aggressive 8 to 5 is something that comes out of favorite over just stepping up. With 5-3, Marty makes his 8-point, starts getting his back checkers moving. And with nothing better to do with a 6-3, well, I can consider 20 to 11. But now I've got blots on both sides of the board. Marty's got the stronger board. He's ready to do stuff. And when your opponent is ready to do stuff, you want to look for hitting plays. Not necessarily because they give you the best structure, but just because they take away some of your opponent's momentum. And sure enough, the hit comes out on top here. Marty thinks for a second, but this is a little bit too premature. While you've got the gammons that you would like, the wins just aren't there yet, and you need another improvement. Marty hits the steps up. I dance the finest samba. And now Marty's definitely got the improvement that he's looking for. He hasn't really done so much on his side, but you know, he has sent another checker back, and that, along with his assets combined with lack of mine, make this a very, very, very strong double. I elect to let it go. This is right on the borderline. I thought it was a little bit worse at this at the table. I thought it was. It's a little surprising to see it turn out this way, but you know. A right decision is a right decision. I'm sure there's plenty of players against the right kinds of opponents that would be more than happy to take this kind of cube. It's an 11-point match. We got a long way to go.
Okay.
All right, Marty has a 1-0 lead. I start off making my 3-point. The 6-2, you don't want to do any different than you do for the opening roll. Playing 18 and 11. Don't really want to hit on the ace with the 5 here. You're overextending yourself. There's still plenty of things that you can do while your opponent needs to clean up their position. Next verse, same as the first, a little bit louder and a little bit worse. Marty now has 2 excellent assets in my bar point and his 11.
Speedy.
An interesting choice of options with the double 5s here. There's a lot that you can do, a lot of inboard points that you can make, or ones that you can escape. XG does prefer the blitz by a little bit, but consolidating and playing 13-1, that's got a lot going for it as well. Marty considers a cube, but with assets way all over the place and not too strong. Well, actually, he's down 5 in the race. There's just not enough there to cube yet. The 3-2 leaves some options. Again, you've got an even race after the play is done, although I'm on roll, so it's a little bit in my favor. So hitting back does have its merits, although simply keeping the containment with 13 to 8 is also reasonable. Hitting back with the 4-1, and the fates twist quickly. After a dance by Marty, we can see from the XG analysis that it's double and pass. Over the table, it took a second to count this out. The race is 146 to 126. All I have to do is cover and get some relative degree of safety from my back checker, and you know, it's an easy win for me. Marty recognizes this in a shot and passes without much hesitation. And just like that, it's a 10-point match, 1-1.
1-1.
No reason never to leap on the first roll. Marty responds with a 6-2. Once again, come out to the bar and start the 11. Lucky, lucky me. I can hit with the first two. And while at other scores or against different opening rolls, it could be right to do something with the final two checkers. Having the extra spare on my midpoint, I really want to be able to unstack, and 7 squared comes out best. This one seemed right at the table, and XG likes slotting the 5-point instead, starting both 5s, giving yourself a chance to make something on either side of the board. This is the kind of play that I overlook a lot at the table. Easy 3-2 makes the 5 for me. Marty gets back with double 2s, enters, makes the 4-point, and decides to play to the 11 with the last. And now I get my choices with the 6-3. Very hastily played at the 15-point. And it's unwarranted aggression. Just pulling 2 down from the midpoint allows me to hem in both of Marty's back checkers. Comes out a lot worse here. Marty responds properly by hitting from the bar. And I have a choice of 4s. I can either safety things up a little bit by playing 15 to 11, or hit with 6 to 2. I did consider the hit for a fair bit of time, and I should have just remembered that even in this position, Marty is ready to do stuff, and that's good enough to want to be able to hit back. I mean, yes, I have a potent attack of my own, but he's ready to engage and has all kinds of threats. He can, you know, anchor on my bar, he can make his bar, he can make the 5, he can hit loose on my 3-point, he can make the 3-point. There's a lot that can go on, and smacking with the 2, or hitting by playing 6 to 2, helps limit the amount of things he can do on his next roll. I want to both extricate my back checker and safety the blot on the 11, but I can't do both. Now I gotta find some kind of 4. Would love to unstack my mid, but I'm up 24 pips before this roll, so I've just got to find a 4 that plays safely. And in this case, no reason to strip 5-point, just play from the 6. Difficult choice for Marty. I mean, a lot of plays where you have the option of making either the bar or the 5. The 5 is almost always right. Here, you've got some extra containment that you really need. When you make the bar point. This is sort of the thing that I would have just made the 5 over the table without too much thought. Marty really spends a lot of time here. He's working through all the positional considerations. There's just one blot back, and this leaves some kind of prime connected together. In this case, this is a situation where it ends up being very, very, very close. But you can see the sort of extremes that are necessary to want to make the bar over the 5. You really have to have some kind of better containment. And that blot on the 11 puts some pressure on the checker on the 3 that I can't just escape into the outfield unless I get the roll that I'm looking for. 2-1 makes the 4-point. Throws the 2-1 in response. Quietly moves to the 8-point. XG preferring to still make the 5, even in the face of that board. I'll bet that's the kind of thing where if I don't have the blot on the 2-point, just playing 11 to 8 is absolutely right. My feeble 3-2 doesn't let me do too much productive, so I unstack the mid and add another builder onto the 8-point. Marty runs with his 6-2. XG has a small preference for pulling 2 down. I liked Marty's play a lot better. My 4-3 allows me to make the 2-point, not much else, so I play to the 5. And with no other productive options, Marty pulls 2 down from the mid. I really want to be able to step up with the 2. He's got a lot that's aiming at the 20-point, and I still have an easy escape with 6s if I stay back on the 22. If I didn't have that 6 to escape, then even with all this ammo in my face, it would probably be right to step up. Here, I just want to consider playing something that's a little bit quieter. So I'm going to play 13 to 8 and then figure out how exactly I play this 2. I settle on 13 to 6. Sure enough, Marty makes the 5-point. And that's 20 pips that are welcomed, but I need something to happen on the next exchange. And Marty putting me up on the roof is not what I'm looking for. Is this a too good situation? Probably not. There's virtually no gammons to be had out there. I can hit that blot on the 8-point if it's not covered. Marty's got to bring all of his back checkers home. If it looks like a cash and smells like a cash, sure enough. Marty takes the lead, is up 2-1. Gotten to play against Marty in the last 3 NEBC monthly tournaments. Lost to him in the finals in January, and lost to him in the round of 16 in February. I do have video of the February matches and may get around to putting those up. I've just sort of started with the MSC and gone forward, but if I have time, I'll get those added as well. Trying to remember who else I played in February. I think it might have been Paul Caracciolo. Anyways, Marty hits Lewis coming back with the 2-1 and splits his back men. I hit in advance. And without the ability to hit loose or make any kind of meaningful inner board point, Marty just plays to the bar. With the 3-1, I very briefly consider making the 10-point. But it's still early. There's no reason not to make the 5, especially with as many men back as Marty has. And he takes advantage of the 4-3 to hit twice. I play legally. Good for me. And with 6-2, Marty cleans up.
Okay.
We've got some options with 3s. Similar to what we saw in the round of 16 against Steve.
What are my priorities?
There was a pair of double 2s where you're going to step up immediately, but then the question is how to play the last 2. And there, I was kind of crunched behind. I was crunched behind a big prime, and I really didn't have much time left in my inner board. Here, I get the choice of what I want to develop, so I'm gonna step up and play 21 squared with 2 of the 3s. I'm just down too much. And I have the choice of either making the 3-point or making the 10-point or coming forward even more. I elected to just build a little bit on both sides of the board, but without any builders on any of those points, it ends up coming up behind either the 3-point, making a third and a board point, or just making the 18. Marty cleans up with his 6s. And with my 4-1, I can think about whether or not I want to disintegrate my whole position to put 2 up on the roof. It is aggressive, but I have 3 checkers stuck behind a 4 prime. I'm not going to be able to casually roll this home. Yeah, like 2 and 21 kind of looks convenient and it plays nice. But you get the most pressure by putting 2 up on the roof here. There's plenty of action on both sides. And with a pensive thought, we can see that we're nowhere near a cube yet, but when you're looking at a position and you got time on the clock, you can take as much time as you want to be certain. Some difficult double 2s here. The switch is very counterproductive and can be dismissed. Playing down to the 11-point isn't great. Stepping up to the 21 is probably the most convenient, although your 6s are still blocked. Marty elects to put 2 up on the roof with a loose hit. Well, computer likes the switch, and I did not. And I need to understand more about how that wins a little bit more. That might be a fun one for me to play through. With XG or any other bot, you do have the ability to play out a position from a particular spot over and over and over until you get it, or at least you think you do. That could be a good one for me to go back and look at. In my 3-2, I'm going to luckily enter and hit on the bar point. The hit extravaganza continues. Marty punches back. And I also decide what to do. This is starting to get into back game territory, and it's not something that's well understood by the bots or the humans. It's especially not well understood by me. I do have Alex E's book on advanced back game strategies. I have read it once, but I need to reread it because a lot of it didn't stick. It's not exactly a beach read. All right, so Marty's blitzed a bunch. I've danced, and he's looking at a giant difference in pip count.
This ain't exactly the reference position.
And ships it. Yeah, Mumble, this isn't exactly the reference position, and the truth is, against a well-timed 2-4 back game, it's not really a double until you're pretty close to bringing everybody home. And this is a case where Marty's got a whole bunch of checkers that are not near that objective. I realize that I've got tons of blots out there, but I've already got one of the best back game structures out there in the 2-4. Plus, I also have the chance of even making a third anchor on the ace point. So there's still plenty of play from my position, scary as it is. And we take a look at the numbers. Yeah, sure enough, we can see Marty's winning just over 60% of the time, but over 40% gammons. Not surprising at all for back game type positions. But when you're winning close to 40% of the time as the trailer, that's a pretty commanding take, especially early in the match. At 6-2, Marty hits loose and steps up. Whole bunch of reasonable alternatives, but we can see that the moral of the story is hitting something. XG still likes hitting here. I'm not really sure when the too much aggression, not enough aggression threshold gets reached. I'd love to be able to make some salient points that you, the viewer, can walk away from this and say, okay, that's something I understood a little bit better. But you're going to walk away from this game thinking, Idiot Vig does not understand what's going on in back games, and that's absolutely valid, because I don't. It's still very much shrouded in a mystery. That's the bots haven't played enough games, or they haven't properly weighted what everything is worth and what the bot thinks is valuable and what humans think are valuable in back games are still, they don't converge all that often. I'm curious to see what the next wave of bots can do with back games, but it's I don't know. This is me just trying to tell you that we've got a wild one already, and sit back, grab a snack, let's enjoy the rolls that are coming, because this game's not going to end anytime soon. And with these sixes, Marty elects to clean everything up, and XG prefers a simple consolidation. Just playing 15-3 and covering the ace point. Making that fourth inner board point is important. Marty does eventually get to do it with the 5-1. 4-3 feels like just simply playing from the 9 point twice is right. I can't even imagine to understand the technical merits of playing 5 squared. This is probably the kind of thing Marty has looked at a fair deal. You can see it even comes out on top here from XG. That's excellent play by Marty, just even considering it. The 6-5, gonna play everything into the 3 point. I still can't move. And I jumped the gun on the analysis there. Marty clears the bar point here. That's I guess there's fewer shots from the bar, although it does make 4-4 an even better roll than it was before. I guess you probably don't want to stack your 6 point in the bear off against this kind of back game, and getting the chance to move onto the 5 point instead is probably the difference here. Picks up extra wins and a few extra gammons as well. I continue my outstanding display of stasis. Not much else to do but play 5 squared after mumbling about how cruddy that roll was.
Just in time.
Just in time indeed. Entering and getting something going. Starting to move my back checkers. And I need to start thinking about getting off the BG, so I'm going to prioritize moving my checkers in Marty's inner board before I do anything else. Even if I get that hit, I'm going to have more than enough coverage to keep going and fill in the points that I need later. The important part is avoiding losing 6 right now. I considered playing 23-19 squared here. I kind of want an extra checker around just for another roll or two, in the case that I can hit and still keep those back points, prevent any future 1-1 jokers in the event that I do hit. So I elect just to run with the double 2s, and what do you know, it actually turns out being right. Marty has a forced 4-1, and now anything looks right. I think I want to continue by making the bar point at least, and then give myself some kind of coverage with the ace. Forced rolls continue, as is often the case. Now it's time for me to get rid of my spare on the 23. It likes 23-17 a little bit better. I don't know. Okay. Okay, now I really need to consider the backgammon threat, and I have one way that gets 2 checkers. 2 checkers out of the quadrant and roll. I take it. Eschewing the hit. Marty rips. And after the hit, I've got to choose some kind of 3. I can either play 18 to 15 or 16 to 13. 16 to 13 does have the benefit of. Oh no, sorry. I'm gonna get hit at least once on double 4s. Twice if I stick around on the 16 point, and because of that, I wanted some return shots. I didn't want to get BG'd from there, so I play 16 to 13 with the 3 here. All of this was just sort of pure guesswork over the table. Computer says 18 to 15 just as good. 4s are lousy no matter what you do. All forced rolls for Marty here on out, barring some extreme exceptions. I get to hit back. Diversify a little more. Get to make my 4 point and then figure out what to do with the last 2. And I could just sort of spray stuff around the outfield, or I could make the 8 point. I kind of like the idea of a broken 4 prime, so ultimately I just play 14 to 8. But I wondered what was best here. But this is kind of a fruitless exercise. There are just so many possible permutations of plays that are there. Like, anything is reasonable with the last 2. Or 4, and amazingly, this does not hit. There's no checker on the 7, or the 11, or the 15, or the 19. Knowing that, what do? Well, after briefly recovering from the shock, I realized that the 9 point can be made, and then with the final 4, it's just a matter of maximizing outfield coverage with 18 to 14. Sometimes you get sucky rolls, and yeah, you're going to get some feels from that, but you need to move on and just take a look at what's going on over the board. What are your objectives? And, this isn't an extreme example. That was a pretty easy play to find. But the point still exists that you're going to have plays where whatever you're feeling is stronger than whatever you're thinking. And that's a habit that you need to get out of. At 5-2, I start the bar and give myself some kind of cover. And now exercises and micro errors. Anything is fairly reasonable here. You want to avoid making things overly flexible. I mean, Marty's already got 10 checkers off, so I'm already a dog, even if I roll things home successfully. So you just want to play things as flexibly as possible. There's no recirculation chances here, so there's no reason for me to be messing around and doing anything but making the 2 point and the 1 point. Again, I'm just going to find reasonable ways to bring the checkers home in a flexible way. I don't care too much about giving up the 36 to 1 shot or the 35 to 1 shot by not playing 6s safely, because I need to rip off checkers in order to win. And Marty's going to be getting at least some shots or some entry points for me breaking points earlier as a result. Like I need to rip off a whole bunch. So it's if he hits back, what's the big deal? I've already borne off 1. I've achieved the objective of getting changing my gammons to a single loss, and now I have some outside chances of getting a single win as well. Marty's still a 2-1 favorite here. And I just reflexively played off in 5-3. I didn't even think about ripping twice, and you can see that it gets you a couple extra wins as a result. Wouldn't have impacted Marty's next roll, but that's completely immaterial. We had a chance to make the best play. We have no risk in being hit back and can only gain from ripping extra checkers off. Followed by a dance, I probably would have been close to a recube there. Instead, I just played the the same way I did as if it was contextless, as if it was in the middle of a normal game where there was some degree of contact. Suffered for it. Well, I didn't really suffer for it. I ate about 0.3 of equity. Or 0.03 of equity.
4-1.
Certainly not the worst transgression. Alright, so Marty takes a 4-1 lead.
Thanks for the extra decisions. My PR thanks you.
If this mattered for anything, yes, the extra decisions were very welcome there. And thank the dice gods, of course, for letting me hit with a 3-1. So just running is right here. I tried to create a little bit extra action because I was down in the match and I thought this was going to get me more gammons, and it does, but not, the fraction of gammons it gets doesn't offset the extra losses here. XG has a preference for playing to the 21 point instead of down to the 11. I kind of like playing to the 11 as well, but who knows? Maybe that's the kind of play that as trailer you want to play 13 to 11 instead of 23-21. All right, I hit back with the 6-1. Marty hits back with 5-4. Oh, interesting. Making the 5 point comes out just about even.
Now what?
Wow, small favorite for making the 5 point there. They both look reasonable. The catharsis of hitting is undeniable. I got to figure out what to do with a 3-3. So I'm going to enter. And I have my choice of shots, or choice of hits rather. It's not going to take too much thought before I hit on the 5, and if I hit on the 5 and have an opportunity to make the 5, I'm going to do that as well. Marty similarly gets a choices of 5s to hit with. 7-2 feels more like a concession than anything. It's loose on the ace. XG says they're all fairly reasonable here. 6-1 coming out on top. I'm guessing that probably minimizes shots. But I'm too lazy to count right now. Make sure to click the like button if you enjoy this kind of compelling commentary. And after a considerable pause, I ship. And now it's Marty's turn to go in the tank and consider what's going on. I can't obviously be too good even down in the match. This is way too early. But does Marty have a take? It is just a 2-point board versus a 1-point board. I still have one on the roof, so I can't do everything that I want to. I don't have any builders on the 8. I've got extra spares on the 6 that I would really love to be points or spares elsewhere. So there's still some play in this. This is a scary take, but this ends up being right in the middle of the window. 35% wins. There's enough play to offset the big gammon threats. Over a quarter of the time, I'll end up winning a gammon from this. With a 4-1, I have my choice of hitting twice. Computer says you take whatever is your preference. I'm just here to assign an empirical value based on a system of weights that I've been programmed to evaluate after playing against myself millions of times. True story. XG is a good guy. A little dry, but I like that. With 6-3, I decided to anchor up and hit on the 3-point. It looks like starting the bar is better instead, and Marty really doesn't have much by way of assets on his side. He doesn't have much of anything, so it's not so much that there's a cost associated with the play, because there's not much risk of being wrong other than being sent back against a nearly naked outfield. You get lots more gains from when you're right, and that's the kind of play that's easy for me to overlook at the table. Marty hits back with 5-2, and I quickly anchor up. 5-2. Marty anchors up as well. Dissatisfying choice of options. I can run with either of the back checkers. 20 to 10 doesn't dupe anything. That doesn't feel great. 18 to 8 I kind of dismissed quickly. Or 21 to 11 rather. It actually does dupe fours. Oh, wow. Maybe I missed that at the table. Maybe I miscounted that over the table as well. It turns out either running back checkers is best. I settled on the stability of the 2-point, but it is behind Marty's 3-point anchor, and it doesn't do anything about my problematic back checkers that are still stuck there. Marty enters and pulls down to the 11-point. And with not much else to consider, I just make the 8-point and find a safe ace after briefly considering 21-20. Those two end up coming out about the same now. Small error to split the 21-point. Marty runs to the 14-point. XG likes the stability of the 11-point better, despite all the blots. That's probably not one I'm finding over the table. I mean, I might consider it, but that's something that just looks really scary. Turns out to not make much difference. But the 11 point's the 11 point. You don't have any interboard points. You can't make any interboard points with that roll. 11 point looks like a decent asset, all things considered. My 6-5 is kind of ugly. I elect to simply run. I consider 2 checkers out. Both are reasonable. And now Marty can do gestures vaguely in the air with the aces here. Looks like you want to play 14 to 13, make the 5-point. But then, making the 21-point is not terrible either. I really appreciated the way that Marty played this, putting his checker over mine. That was an interesting way. I mean, it's not a high bar to amuse me, but that got a chortle out of me at the table. But at any rate, I'm over the board. I'm seeing 14 to 13, and I'm thinking long and hard about whether I want to make the 21 point or the 5-point next. If I make, either one, no matter what I do, I think I kind of have to play 11 to 10 with the last. Although it that's not great because now you give yourself another set of direct shots. Marty elects to make both sets of points, which I thought also looked reasonable over the table. Clean up, make the 5, and 11 to 10 comes out slightly on top. It's putting me on the roof, or Marty's play, both reasonable. I get an unwelcome 6-6 of sorts. Unfortunately, for sure, has been called. XG says that's minus 300 for luck, just enough to be considered an anti-joker. That was the bare minimum of anti-joker for 6s. That feels right. If it's going to be a bad roll, you want it to just barely be a bad roll. Not like dancing on a 1-point board, 6s. A lot of options for Marty with the 5-1. Hitting kind of feels mandatory because the only true safe play, 14 to 13, 11 to 6. I don't know. It doesn't feel productive enough. It's certainly safe enough. But you really do need to get something going. down, I guess down 35 in the race at this point. Hitting's a good way to make up some of the ground there. And Marty elects to play 13 and 17. 11 to 6, also a decent choice, but not best. And yeah, the safe play comes out behind. Doesn't even win more games. Doesn't even reduce more gammons. It just looks like it's safer. I have a difficult set of threes here to play. So after I enter, I've got 3 more, and I can just make the bar. I can pull 2 down and kill a spare by playing 5 to 2. I come up with this weird thing where I enter, make the 10 point because it blocks 6s, and then play 18 to 15 squared, which not in the ballpark. It looks like the idea here is to do what I did, but still keep the mid and not give up all those shots in the process. Also reasonable is just simply making the bar point after entering, leaving everything else in the outfield where it is. It's difficult. Probably should have spent more time on that. I wasn't sure. It just looked weird, and I let my feels get in my way of my head. Marty with the 4-3. XG prefers 17-14, 11 to 7. I consolidate very luckily with 6-3. Nothing better. Marty starts adding a spare to his 6 point. I've got ones that don't do much for me. Well, the first 3 are not terrible if I wanted to play 3 to 1, 2 to 1. But then that last ace is a little bit unfortunate to have to deal with. So there's not much else to do but sigh, shrug, kill a few seconds off the clock, and slide it over. Oh, I guess I can play 10-9 squared, 1 squared. Huh. Did not consider that. Don't understand the technical merits. Bots are weird. Marty continues developing on his side of the board with a 6-4. Now with a 5-4. I'm kind of stuck again. Like, I can play 8 and 9. I can play 15 to 6. I could play 13 to 8, 5 to 1. I elect to pay now with 15 to 6 because, you know, the 1s and 3s to cover. There's some duplication in Marty's board. Yeah, that's right. I also consider 15 to 11, 15 to 10. Kind of like a variant of running with both checkers when you're in your opponent's home board and you have the chance to bring both out to the outfield. So I settle on 15-6, and I walk away from a very reasonable alternative into a huge blunder. I'm just giving up tons and tons of extra wins here on account of how many extra shots I'm giving Marty. Mercifully, miraculously, some combination of both of those words, which is not a valid portmanteau, which is what I attempted to say, somehow Marty doesn't hit. He does get himself a really decent shake with 6-6, though. Not so much that he can start thinking about running. He's way down in the race. He's going to be down 13 after this roll is done. He's just got to find a way to be able to keep contact best while building some kind of threat in his own inner board. And this isn't there's not a great way to do that with these dice. You know, if you are playing 21 to 15 squared, you're probably going to want to play, I don't know, maybe 2 squared with the last. It's difficult. Here, with Marty's play, a 5 squared, 2 squared, you still keep the contact from the anchor on the 21. You still keep contact mid. Apparently can't watch and click at the same time, let alone talk. 3-2, I just clean up. Marty pulls 2 down with the 6-5. And with no safe play available, I can start the ace. Even the indirects here create too much risk. Marty's on the precipice of building a 4-point board. And now I'm at a spot where, given the relative risk on the other side of the board, I'm looking for plays that are as safe as possible. So something that's as convenient as allowing me to get 3 super important crossovers and cover the ace point is a great roll. At 5-4, Marty would love to be able to escape, but even an indirect shot is too much of a threat. Cleans up with 8-3, 5-1. No good option with 3, so I keep on running with my 6-3. Now he's got a scoot.
Yeah, I saw you guys play over here.
I can play safe, or I can give up indirects. And, I thought about this for a while, and it looks like clearing the 8-point doesn't feel terribly safe because of how awkward it's going to be to bring those 2 other checkers home. I'm not even lining this up right. I should, play 8-2 if I'm going to consider the 6 that way. Oh, no, sorry, this is 12-3. Yeah, how about that? Okay. So I played 12-3. XG still likes clearing the 8-point, and it's because those swing rolls are just so devastating. And after the dance comes the recube, and I don't have the wins. I mean, even at 4, the score is 4-1 in Marty's favor right now. I can pass, and it could be 6-1, or we can play on here. This is just, I'm taking a second, just getting some deep breaths out. At no point was I seriously considering taking this, but I don't want my emotions to carry over with me into the next game. So I'm just going to sit there, sigh,
Silly game.
realize this is 2 points that I can't get back, and move on.
Find out later.
That is true.
Not my best game there.
I suppose at this time
Had
we're trying to assuage
quite a few
my
ideas that I did not
anxieties
get right.
at the moment.
Some good lessons in there. Relative safety with a racing lead is something that can be pervasive, and it's a lesson that I continue to
Value that
learn.
has. 6-1. Still no autos.
I do my usual joke about autos after a couple of doubles to start. And Marty gets a 5-4. I mean, I said it last video, a major split is mid and hit. And the right play here is hitting and playing from the midpoint. Again, being down in the match, I thought I needed to create some extra action, get my back checkers going, maybe engage in a blot hitting contest. Comes out a little bit worse. Very convenient set of 5s here. But given the choice between playing to the ace and neatly covering the 5-point while extricating a back checker, there's just too much good in making the 5. Six, an interesting choice of aces for Marty. 22 is also a possibility, as is playing 24-18, 8-7. I scoot with my 6-2. Fade the shot back. Marty's got no point numbers. He can't escape from the 23, which he'd probably prefer doing. And his current play leaves him disjointed on both sides of the board. I don't need much of an excuse to double. I don't have much of one, but it's enough where some wins are there and some gammons are there. It's 10 away, 5 away. I know the scoreboard is obfuscated by the baffle box slightly, but Marty's up 6-1. So at 10 away, 5 away, I'm easily at a point where I don't need to be anywhere near the money doubling window in order to turn this. My only question is, do I have lots of gammon threats? How big are they? And even though Marty's got 2 blots in my hand, board, it doesn't feel terribly potent. You know, if I had some extra builders on the 8-point or on the 5-point, then I probably have more shots at it. So, you know, this is a double because I'm behind in the match. And we can see here, just barely, not even a 2-to-1 favorite, 15% gammon, so this is worse than starting. Clear take for Marty, but the kind of cube that you need to be familiar with when you're throwing from behind. Here I elect the relative safety of the 11-point. Not sure why I did that. Marty's got the 2 cube. I want the gammons. I should be hitting loose on the 4-point. That should be reflexive. And I elected to just play safe. As it is, Marty throws a set of 4s that would have been devastating had I hit loose. But again, that's not material. And backgammon is so often the case. You can get rewarded for doing the wrong thing, and you can be cruelly punished for doing the right thing. All you have control over is being able to play better, so that's all you focus on. In the deuce, you can slot the 5, but you know there's lots of blots on both sides of the board, and without a defensive anchor, if you do get that shot, you know, if you do end up hitting, either are forced or get an indirect shot, that's another blot that you're leaving in your inner board. You know, you might put your opponent up on the roof before you have the chance to cover. Yes, I don't think slotting the 5 is horrible, but I understand anything else that looks reasonable that cleans up, like 22 or 64 or 31. Speaking of cleaning up, I make my 8-point, move a spare onto the 5-point, which is much needed. But Marty makes his anchor. The 9-4-1. Play down to the 8-point, get things going. Try to roll my checkers home. Both of us getting rolls that aren't terribly productive, but we do the best you can with them. And it's okay for me to abandon my 11-point, doesn't have any value. Got the racing lead.
They are nice because I call
And now again, I can consider whether or not I want to leave the midpoint. Obviously, I got a bad taste in my mouth from last game, so I elect to still play safely, not break from the 13-point. Clearly, it ends up showing up as anything that breaks from the 13-point is still a blunder. Marty's got a very menacing board, so I want to prioritize safety as much as possible, even when the race is still fairly close, like this is. Sorry, I know I've been saying lead. I've been watching it get whittled away. And as was the case with last game, I can consider breaking my 8-point again, leaving my very stranded back checkers stranded even further back, or I can play directly to the point that I think that's safe. And once again, I make the exact same play, and once again, Marty hits the swing roll. And once again, I dance, and once again, this actually ends up being a redouble in take. At 5 away, only because this is 5 away, the action's going too fast to talk about the match score implications right now. You know, Marty's got a very inefficient cube, being 5 points away and making it 4 points. Because if the cube would ever go back to 8, he would only be getting 5 points of value out of that instead of the full 8, and I would be getting the full 8. The cube is enormously valuable to me as a trailer at this specific score. So he knows this. He knows he is shipping a cube where I need literally any excuse to toss it back. However, he has an overwhelmingly strong position. Even if I get the shot that I am so desperate for here, I do not have a board that can easily and safely contain my opponent. That's right. If you heard that labored groan over the camera, that's me realizing that no matter how long I look at this position, the only way I'm going to take it is if I really, really, really hate equity. Sometimes you just got to battle whatever it is that you're feeling. There's so many times where your brain knows something is right and your heart is telling you something different. Those are expensive lessons to learn. Particularly because, as we talked about, you can be rewarded for doing the wrong thing in backgammon. So it's the kind of thing that feeds bad behaviors. When you're focused on just simply making the best possible play, you start realizing that your own emotions, your very natural, understandable human emotions, are something that takes you away from your objective. It's sort of weird to think about. I'm just reacting to playing a game. How can that make me worse? And it ends up making you worse because those things you're feeling don't matter as far as the things you can control over the board. 20%. So I'm going through all the match equity calculations and considerations just for the heck of it. I really do need to be mindful. I've used up over half the time on my clock, and the score is 6-1 right now. I did want to make sure that I got this right. I know full well. I know full well that this is something where I'm going to be able to ship it back very easily, and Marty's double is obviously very, very strong. I should have been thinking more about whether I would have taken the roll prior, and then I wouldn't have burned so much time. Asking yourself whether it's a double, whether it's a take, that's something that you really want to be in the habit of. Ideally, asking yourself every single roll. It's not something that I make a habit of at all. And in a case like this, having that kind of conversation with yourself, roll over roll, can make you better prepared for when you do face that cube decision over the board. All right, Marty is up 8-1. He's got a snowman there behind the obscured baffle box. 8-1 in an 11-point match. Then I start with my 3-point. Marty splits with his 3-2. I am briefly considering a cube at this point. It is right on the borderline. You can see when you're a huge dog in a big match, you don't need much to be able to ship. Sure enough, I am right on the line here. And with 4-1, I'm going to hit the split. After the 4, Marty finds an ace. XG likes playing 24-23 with the last one, but that's fine, as is playing 21-20. I smack in the outfield. Marty hits, or anti-hits the 9-1 shot, and I ship. And this actually ends up being a very, very big take, although this is the kind of pass you're going to make when you understand the scores very, very well, because you understand the impact of the gammons. I'll bet this is the kind of thing where if the winning chances were more than, not much more, maybe like, 62, 63% with the same kind of gammons, it would probably be in a borderline take-pass sort of situation. So it's a very, very sensitive kind of score. Anyways, I get my pittance of a point, but everything counts. So it's 8-2, onward and or upward. Marty splits with his 6-2. I hit the split with my 5-2 back. And conveniently making the anchor. I also conveniently make the 5-point. So convenient. Convenience continues as Marty makes the bar with a 6-4. So far, nothing terribly out of the ordinary here. I have an interesting choice of 6-1s, and by interesting, I mean frustrating, because I can't play what I want to play. So I start with 22-16. I was considering 8-1 as well. Feels better to get a back checker moving here, as Marty has an advanced anchor. But the bot likes playing 8-1. one of those, if you started it, you may as well make it. I sort of dismissed it at the time because I've got all the extras on the midpoint and I'm stripped on the 8-point. So I didn't like the lack of flexibility there. All right, I didn't like the lack of flexibility. I'm good at this. Marty with a set of 3s. Playing 13 to 7. 18 to 15 squared is certainly reasonable. You also have the choice of making some inner board points. You can make the 5, you can make the 3, you can make the 4. 4 is probably not great. You can also skip the hit altogether. You know, you have a roll that allows you to break the 18 point and break the 6 point. Marty's going to be up after the roll. How much he's up is depending on whether or not he hits. $13.10 and 5 cubed was not an option I was considering over the table. Certainly a play. Just tons of options. Again, you don't want to overplay doubles. You don't want to do more things than you can with your dice. Sometimes you want to do all the things, and you can only do some of the things, and then it's a prioritization exercise. I often try to do all of the things with doubles. Marty ends up playing 10 squared and 3 squared. As we can see, there's a lot of reasonable looking alternatives, but the bot prefers just simply making 2 points and skipping the hit altogether. Anyways, I dance. Marty makes his 5 point. I get it to figure out what I want to do with these aces. So I'm going to enter, I'm going to hit, and now I've got 2 more aces to play. I could step up to the 23 point, but the advanced anchor doesn't save me that many gammons here. I would rather continue to contain and work towards making an advanced anchor, giving myself a chance to escape. Looks best. Hitting loose is an interesting thought, but when you got a big lead in the match, probably not warranted. I'm fortunate enough to be able to make an advanced anchor with the 4-3. And with double 2s, Marty's going to move all 3 checkers from the 18 forward. If you play 10 to 8, 6s don't play great for you next roll, but it is still better than leaving a shot. That's difficult. That's an inflexible roll. However you play that last 2. Stepping up is clearly right. I'm not sure why I didn't over the table. I thought I was probably keeping more contact in some kind of superficial way. I'm just getting myself into a world of hurt by keeping it back there. 5-1 won't let me make the 4, but the 3 is a reasonable consolation prize. Wasn't totally sure what was right with his 6-3. There's a lot of reasonable looking alternatives. I'm not crazy about hitting loose on the 2. Now that I have 3 points in my own inner board, that looks a lot less attractive. So the question is, like, how safely are you going to play this? Yeah, we can see the hit comes out almost 0.06 behind. It's an error cubeless too. 5-3. I don't have to leave a shot, but I elect to start the point that I want to make. I need to do something. And I abandoned my game plan for relative safety, eating 100 equity in the process. Computer just likes playing 8 to 4. Marty still doesn't have that many builders aiming at my 2 points, so at the time, increasing my defense, making more threats in my own inner board is standout. Marty plays his bar point with 6-3. I get a joker of jokers with the hit and cover, and now he whiffs. So again, I'm down in the match. I have a very, very easy double, but I also have a very, very difficult checker that's stuck on the 23 point, giving Marty plenty of play here. Again, there's even fewer gammon chances. Like, Marty's got more gammon chances than I do, and I don't have many wins. I'm winning 5 games in 8, and that's still enough to ship it at this score. When you are 3 away and your opponent is big away, as trailer, you can pretty much double with impunity. You don't need much of an excuse to turn the cube. It's one of the reasons that if I have to be the trailer, I don't mind so much when I'm down big, because I'm going to be getting in early aggressive cubes. That I'm not going to have to worry about making additional cube errors later by missing some cubes, and that's been historically a big leak of mine. Missing cubes is something where you can lose a lot of equity, not so much from any one decision, but if you miss a cube thematically, it's not likely that you're just missing 1 cube. You're probably missing 2, 3, 4, 5. When you see a string of cubes show up in the analysis, that's just the worst feeling, because you know that there was something that you didn't get right, and there was something thematic about that position that's fundamentally wrong. So when you're trailer and you're shipping easy cubes, not only are you doing what's best for you in the match, but you're also improving your PR in the same go. So it's just a reason to be reasonably aggressive. That was kind of a long speech to say, be chaotic when you're down big. And with 2-1, Marty elects to kill 6s rather than to start his 4 point. Ends up being just slightly worse. I can still start my 2 point here. There's no issues whatsoever. I don't care if he hits, because Marty has an open point that's high in his inner board instead of low in his inner board. I can do whatever the hell I want as long as I preserve my prime and or put Marty up on the roof. With a 6-1, yeah, making the 4 point. I mean, it's a human play. Marty's looked at way more technical stuff than you or I ever will. So I'm sure he has his reasons. I didn't understand the merits of 5-1. Again, I can just continue hitting loose. And I'm in no big hurry to cover. Recirculation chances are still decent. I certainly would not mind picking up a second checker. That's where most of my gammon vig comes from. I still want to be able to rip here. I know I'm leaving myself some extra shots. I really just wanted to be able to get more gammons.
Caught it. Intentional and effortless.
I made a nice one-handed grab of an errant die flying off the board there. One of my better plays of the day, actually. And slowly the game goes to 100%.
Double sixes or five.
Unbelievably not gin.
Oh, the parlay is still on. If it keeps going, I may
Yeah,
lose.
2 on doubles, 2 on doubles.
All right, that kills that. So now the score is 8-4 in Marty's favor. 3 away, 7 away. Still in basically the same kind of spot, doubling wise. I can't be quite as aggressive, but I still very much want to be shipping the cube early, especially with any kind of gammon threat. Here, gammons just are huge for me. Doubled gammon gets the score to 8-8. So this is it's very, very valuable. Again, I'm still looking to double at my earliest reasonable opportunity.
Not a 3 away. Not a 3 away, big away. Yeah, it's.
I don't know.
I thought that's what Snelling said.
Yeah, I know. Who cares? it's like
Marty is likely grumbling because there's probably an over-reliance on the opening move itself and not enough on the positional analysis and understanding. So, if it's the kind of thing where there's an exception to playing 2-1 as 13-11, 24-23 instead of 13-11, 6-5, he's willing to eat the equity there. And a lot of players are the same way. They'll have their favorite ways of playing the opening roll, knowing that even on XG rollout, it comes out .013 behind or some such. At any rate. So here I am in another great position for this particular score. I've got a 2-point board. Marty has a 1-point board. I have 1 checker back. He has 3 checkers back. I have tons of threats in both the outfield, some indirect shots. I can make another inner board point. These are all things that are contributing to the only moderate wins and gammon chances that I need. So I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking. Eventually I'm going to ship this. And Marty has played a game or two of backgammon in his life, and he says, "You're not the first punk I've been 3 away, 7 away against." It makes an easy take. 5-4 lets me make my 9-point. And relatively unproductive 3-2 doesn't do much else but play to the 8. Oh, I don't like 13-11, 9-6. That's ugly. 4-3, I'm just going to add another builder to my outfield and step up. Marty makes a valuable but ultimately dissatisfying 3-point with a 6-5. I'd love to scoot, but I love a broken 5' even more. I still feel good about making my 4-point, even though I got hit back. Because I know I'm going to roll well. This game's easy. This game's tough. It's unclear whether I need to step up here, slot the 2, or just add a builder with my 4. Oh yeah, I had 13 as well. Now I'm regretting not stepping up because Marty makes his bar point. I have the beautiful ephemera of a 6-point prime, which I need badly to be able to escape from, or at least tread water for a turn. And reasonable diversification play comes out best. 2-1. Can't leave, but I'm okay with the status quo. 4-3 does hit purposelessly. And lucky me, I get to scoot out of there with my prime still intact and 3 checkers stuck behind it. He's considering whether he wants to kill 6s, and here if he just makes the 2-point, he still has a very natural playing 7-1 with a 6 on the next roll. For 1, started the deuce point. I'm going to make it, and just shuffle my checker along to the 13. XG says I like other stuff. Any of those are reasonable. That is an exercise left to the viewer. 5-3 gets me to my 5 points. Everything plays itself. I know that there are positions in games like this against busted anchors where clearing from the 8 is right, and clearing from the 9 is right, or clearing from the 7 is right, and I need to spend more time with these. I don't totally understand. I mean, clearing from the 8 does avoid shots with, with big doubles next turn. Maybe that's the deciding factor. I'd love it if XG had a more accessible dice roll heat map feature than like GNU does. That would be useful to see in something like that. And I pay the price for not having cleared my 8-point earlier. But the 5s quite literally play themselves. Marty scoots with the 5-4, and I conveniently play safely with my 4-3. And XG has a small preference for playing 7-4 with the last 3 instead of 16-13. What do I care, as I'm just ripping checkers?
You're rolling a double one. One too many, yeah. 6-8.
Alright, that's it for that game. The comeback continues. It is now 8-6 after being down 8-1. So I am now 5 away, Marty's 3 away. Another stupid score. We talked about that a little bit in the last match. I think that same score was achieved in the match against Steve. I play down from mid and split with my 4-1. All basic stuff so far. And now the first plausible decision of the game, I guess. And you can just smack twice. I mean, it's good for the blitz, yes, but also Marty's got some menacing threats on his side of the board too, so we need to slow him down. And with 5-6, playing down to the bar is still a little bit better. Even with the cube center, the prospect of making the bar or continuing the blitz comes out ahead over simply running. Do I want a defensive anchor or do I want the 5-point? And as is so often the case, you really do want the 5-point. I really thought this was
these other two guys were.
This was going to be a lot closer than it was. I really thought that the strength of the 22-point anchor, both the anchor itself as well as having daylight to escape, was the moral of this position, and it was not. Marty runs with his back checker, running from the 24th. I guess keeps them connected. I don't know. That's usually a BS excuse. There's got to be some other reason than that. With a 6-2, I can hit, and with no better 6, just going to pull down from the mid.
I'm at the right place. That was a good game.
You don't enter on the 20-point. Your 5 is left to being buried behind my anchor, and those don't really play well.
Yeah, I think it's such an impossibility, but like that.
Any doubles, I'll do double one.
And that tells me I should have run sooner, but I was trying to put down hope.
After a fair bit of consideration, I just don't have enough ammo to do what I want to. And I like to keep rolling. 4-2. I can hit twice again. Maybe I should consider it. Any hit there ends up being right. I do pick the best non-hitter, but that's a Pyrrhic victory. Marty runs with his 6-5. Again, I survey the situation, even with a direct shot. Still not anywhere near where I want to be doubling. Got worse since the last roll. That's also a good thing to ask yourself. If you were sort of on the fence about a decision, did I improve or did I get worse from the last shake? And what was I thinking about doubling the last turn? Of course, if you're not asking yourself those kinds of questions, it can be a lot tougher. That speech also allowed me to very conveniently talk over that blunder. Slot in the 5-point with only one checker back is pertinent here, especially because Marty's going to be able to close out his 5-point like he does. So a little bit behind on the analysis there. Marty plays out to the 20-point. And with my 4-1, I'm going to hit and play to the 9. But man smacks back, and now my attention turns to the other side of the board. As soon as I can enter. This is actually a small cube. Good luck finding this sort of stuff. This is incredibly difficult over the board. And it's certainly way too easy to convince yourself that you're looking too good. That you would really have to be able to evaluate positions well. You can get to spots where at these kinds of scores, if you're in the high 70s or low 80s with 30% gammons or higher, you might still have a small double, but these things are difficult. And sure enough, we can see, now over last roll, I only entered one checker. Still, Marty's too good. And with a 5-3, eventually settles on playing to the 4-point. Where XG has a small preference for breaking the line. I get to escape, but at what cost? Truthfully, it doesn't feel like there was one roll that was terribly useful in there for me. This was probably the best cubeless option. No, it wasn't. Looks like bar 5 is the best option. All right, fair enough. And I'm down 36 here. And, Marty's got some trivial gammon chances, but this is really about the wins. I can redouble very, very easily for some of the reasons talked about before. Not quite as easily at some other scores, but still fairly easily. With that said, he's got a lot of I don't have nearly as much contact as I would like. So I look at this as primarily a racing position, followed by some superficial contact. And the wins just aren't there. You certainly want to be able to take his trailer. You could take a heck of a lot deeper than you normally would, but there's just too much going against here.
6 to 9. Nice. Thank you for taking care of that.
I'm gonna get some more water or something.
Yeah.
She's bringing me a Coke.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You have ordered one. Is it, I don't know where.
Oh, let me go. I have to.
And now the match is going to go on break for a little bit.
I won't argue if
So at this point, it's I was down 8 to 1. I was 3 away, 10 away, and now the score is 6 to 9 at 5 away, 2 away. So on the match equity table at 8 to 1, I was somewhere around 13%, and now at 2 away, 5 away, that's right at 75%. So I've I've doubled my match winning chances just by hanging around in there, and it's super easy. You face an opponent like Marty. You're playing against a guy who's been on the Giants of backgammon, rated by peers as one of the best 32 backgammon players in the world for the last 8 years. And he's got so many titles under his name, and he's a G1, and his PR is under 3.5. And you could think about all those things, or you could realize that you paid your entry fee and you showed up to play backgammon, so you're just going to do the best you can. It's great to be able to play against world-class talent, and those are things that are to be relished, not to be feared. So over the board, I'm still continuing to focus on my decisions. The state of the tournament or my opponent, any of that really doesn't matter. I'm just grateful that I was in a spot where I'm continuing to make the best kinds of plays that I can. I'm feeling comfortable over the board. Playing as a trailer is something that I've gotten. I've spent a lot of time learning and I've had a lot of experience with, so it's something that I feel very comfortable over the board when it happens. It doesn't feel like a detriment at all. I'm looking for opportunities to be aggressive, and my opponent is going to lack those opportunities, and my opponent's going to be on the defensive. I don't mind playing that way. You still have to get very lucky from there. You're still obviously an underdog, but it's and the way that match equities work and the cube works, it feels a lot more freeing to be playing as an underdog than you would think that it would. At any rate. So coming up on the channel, I know I've been sharing nothing but live play. I'm going to be creating some content, and for you folks watching, we'll be starting out with just some basic stuff. We're not even going to get into anything positional over the board. We're just going to talk a lot about, what is all this stuff we're seeing on screen? What is equity? What is PR? That's going to get kind of a mindset as to why we're playing backgammon and why we're playing backgammon this way. Because in the last 20 or 30 years, computer advancements have radically changed the game, and it's changed the focus from thinking that you're engaged in some kind of metagame playing the player over the board, and just focused on making a superior move. That's as a result, that's the PR revolution is on, and we're going to talk about what that means. Because if you're someone who's looking to move from social play to competitive play, you're going to start thinking about your PR. Maybe not that quite explicitly. Maybe it's in terms of, now I'm going to get a computer program and go through my errors, and I'm going to understand what's right and what's wrong. But it's more than that. You understand quantitatively what things are right and what things are wrong. So we're going to start with some of that, and then we'll dive into some concepts. What's it take from you being a player who's playing over the kitchen table to playing at your local club? And what sort of skill sets might you need? And what are the kinds of things you want to be thinking about and focusing on as you improve and become a better player? In the meantime, we are back in the action. Marty 2 away, I am 5 away, and I start with 5-1. Split my back checkers. Marty makes his 4 pop. I use my threes to very conveniently make the 5 and 3. Marty swats twice. And now the string of cubes begins. No, not cubes over the board. That string of missed cubes. The thing that I hate so much. We're going to run into a few here. I seem to have totally forgotten that I was a trailer in the match, and I seem to have totally forgotten that I was comfortable playing this. Even when I'm up on the bar, I still have a stronger three-point board than Marty. I have a chance of making a better and more advanced anchor. I have better containment threats, and I have missed 2 very good cubes in a row as a result. Even so, even when Marty has put me up on the roof, I've still had a cube, and that shows you just how potent it can be. We talked a little bit about dead cubes in the last match against Steve Douglas. Here is yet another case where I have a very clear double. And look at how wide that doubling window is. I get tons and tons of gammons here. Even with only 60% wins, Marty can't ship that cube back. Marty can't get value out of gammons. I can get value out of gammons. Those things are huge. Those things make the cube tremendously valuable. And I just said, oh gosh, I'm on the bar. I'm not going to bother looking at the rest of the board. I'm just going to roll and wait until I get an anchor, and then I'll decide what to do. And you know, it may have been that hokey a voice in my head because it was that anodyne. Now I get my own choice, 6s to blunder. Well, my point is I've missed myself a whole bunch of cubes. Like, I had great opportunities to leverage gammons that would get me to Crawford game if I wanted doubles gammon. That is a huge, huge, huge incentive when you are the trailer. When you are the trailer and a double gammon can get you to Crawford before your opponent, chances are the gammon value at that score is very, very high. I have some difficult 6s here. I'm down 30 before the roll.
There you go. That's right.
Excuse me. No, I'm. Yeah. Because I had this set up on initial versus final. Anytime that I move, it's looking at the pip count afterwards. So I realized the pip counts I've been calling out might have been off all video. Sorry for that. But just playing 22 to 10 and making the 2-point keeps all that contact. Dupes. I actually didn't dupe anything. But it kept the contact because I'm still down in the race. Anyway, so not my best game here. Like, you know, I just I might have even realized over the table that you know I could have still had a double earlier because like I think at one point I sort of joked to myself, wow, I've got a pretty good position here. You know, maybe I should have shipped it because this has gone about as badly as it could have for me. And I ended up getting, playing tentatively as a result. I could play 13 to 3, or I could play 16 to 6. With the open 6-point, I felt that running to the 6-point ended up being safer. Here we can see that just playing to the 3-point comes out ahead. Just a difference in single losses. Oh no, sorry. We pick up some extra gammons. Just a handful of extra gammons with 16 to 6. So yeah, I've gotten myself into some spots this game, and I was kind of sort of aware of it, and also trying to push it out. Those are pervasive thoughts that you can't let them stay too long.
Oh, I apologize.
But it did affect me. Double twos. Marty's got a couple of options here. Let's see. Pip count is 98 for me, and sorry. Marty just ends up moving forward. He's only down 2 after the roll. Bombs don't let me do anything else but kind of consolidate. And Marty's just going to start the board that he'd hoped to make all along. XG likes doing that and picking up a second crossover in the mix. These are very, very small differences. I'm continuing to slowly let my racing lead bleed away. I mean, with the 4-3, you can make both inner board points, or you can just run. And the small lead, it ends up being a little bit better just simply running. And that's going to make decisions a little bit easier, barring a big double from me. 3-2 does not look like a big double. Let's see if there's any difference to these cubeless. Small differences. Marty ships. I know I need somewhere around 15% to take. I go through a quick Keith count just for the heck of it. Try to see if maybe there's something in there that makes it reasonably close to the money scores. You know, I really need to figure out a way to convert Keith counts to rough percentages beyond the 2 to 4 range, because I feel like it would kind of help in situations like this. But the moral of the story is I know that I am nowhere close to the 5% or the 15% that I need. Again, not a great game for me there. Some missed cubes, a couple of checker plays I want back. I'm sure Marty wants his checker plays back too. But we're on to the Crawford game.
Crawford 6, or Crawford 5 away.
Crawford 5 away. A priority. This is a 85% match winning chances at this score. So we're back pretty much into the same hole that we were in when we were 3 away, 10 away. We're just slightly better than that. 5-1 going to play out to the bar point. Should just split instead. If I'm going to leave a direct shot, I may as well get an extra builder in the process. Marty dutifully hits back. As do I. As does he. As do I. He's not going to do that again, is he? Well, Marty can hit if he wants. There are choices. You get options. But there's also 4 checkers back. And some kinds of points can be developed. You can make the 3, you can make the 10 point. Feels like moving a checker up to the 21 probably warranted. Over the table, I'd be looking at 21 and 3 squared. I was thinking the same thing. Once again, a case where XG doesn't mind slotting the 5 point.
Oh, I'm all set. Thank you. 4-2 for me. 4-2 is fine. Thank you. Let's see.
Okay, so what did I do? Okay, I did that.
answered
Yeah,
yes.
Go ahead. Yeah,
Yep.
That's good. Myself.
I also take several rolls to
And
snap
Marty gets
back
a chance to
reality.
make another interboard point
Or at
anchor.
least the game.
Not that the 4-5 is so great, but I haven't brought anybody past it for right now, so it gives him a nice place to stay while I awkwardly bring folks home like I do with my 6-1. Meanwhile, Marty can just build his inner board. badly need to unpack my 6-point, but playing 3 and 1 is going to bury a second checker, and I'm not wild about that right now. Marty slots his 5-point with a 5-3. I hilariously try the illegal play to no avail and settle on 8-7, 3 and 1. Yeah, making 5 look super reasonable. I can understand finally running, but you now have a 4-point board. That doesn't suck. With the 3-2, you can just play 13-8. And that's probably what I'd do without too much thought. Marty plays 6 and 5, which looks weird, but you don't really care if you're hit. You already have 2 anchors. I would need to still cover a blot in my home board. The threat of the hit isn't really real. So you get some good builders in place with the 3-2. No better options for me on my 5-2, so I just clear my 8. At least I have a 3-point board now. That stack on the 6 is going to be a problem. And 5-4. No productive options. Just move both from the 18. And once again,
Oh, he found it.
Marty has hit a fly shot that I have left in the outfield. You'd think that I would learn to
I
stop
was going to
doing
make
that.
another pithy joke about leaving yet another fly shot back there for you to
No,
hit.
I will not.
Oh, no, I'll just save that for the video. Thanks, past me.
Holy, not
And
very
I joke her
funny.
right back. Marty mumbled they're not very funny, which absolutely right. Popping out just slightly better. I like making the 5. And I like making my 5 too. How about that? Choices with the 5-4. You can make the ace. You can hit loose and find a 5. Marty eventually settles on 10-5, 6-2, which hitting is right, but it actually likes popping out from the 21 point. And the blot on the 10 is safe if you're hitting. Can't pick up 2 indirect shots, although you can leave more blots around to get hit later if you do get hit back. With that said, XG says it's time to go. You've been around there for too long. But hitting is absolutely right here.
It's okay.
And with a 5-point board, chances were feeling slim, but a reprieve with an enter. And Marty hits right back. I get uncertain about this 4. You can play safe and bury a checker for good, or you can leave yourself a few indirect shots and get yourself a builder on the 3. I elected to give myself a builder, and XG says you have learned nothing. He slapped me with 120. Well, that worked out well, didn't it? Not only do I not get hit back, but I get to pick up a second checker. But which 4 do I want? Well, actually, I spend a moment considering if running can ever be right here. And then I realize with 2 checkers up on the roof, I'm probably going to have the time to be able to throw a 5 or a 6 in the next couple of rolls. So may as well hit and bring down with the other checker. Marty enters on the deuce. And unfortunately, this doesn't make the 2-point. But I can hit loose on the 2-point. Don't mind that. And I can also make the 8-point. Don't mind that either. How safe do I want to play? And I got a choice between playing 6-1, which leaves the fewest return shots immediately, or 8-3, which is more flexible to bring home later. And XG likes the more flexible play, especially because this also leaves a shot for 6s, as does playing that 2-1, although it is best.
3.
Not a lot to these, but you still want to make sure you're playing carefully and you don't miss anything. Nothing more humiliating than realizing that you've made a grievous error in the bear-off, particularly because you're playing too fast. Marty's still accommodating me with dances aplenty.
1-2.
Now with 2s, I decide whether or not I want to rip. It doesn't feel like ripping is right. At 5 away, gammons don't do that much for me. Backgammons are great, but there's not many of those to be found in general, and there's not anything about this position which gives me an overwhelming amount of gammons more. Unfortunately, I end up leaving a shot, but I'm lucky that Marty wasn't able to hit. And unfortunately, I leave a shot. And I'm fortunate that Marty wasn't able to hit. Such is backgammon. And I escape, and now the G's the thing. Being 3 away versus 4 away, don't really care about either. Post Crawford, the free drop is not going to make a ton of difference. It's slightly in your favor if you get the gammon, but it's not an overwhelming amount.
Better be good.
Close to victory, Jen.
And that brings it to 8-10. Post Crawford. So I am 3 away. I need a gammon, or I need to win 2 consecutive games.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was a gammon. Yes, you're absolutely correct. I'm sorry. Charitable.
Can't
me
get
to
it right
give
on
you
the
a free draw.
scoreboard.
Okay.
All right, and I get to start off with a 4-2. And Marty responds with a 4-1. I somehow find the double. Marty somehow finds the take. And double fours. I get eyes bigger than my stomach. Make a gammonish play. First of all, playing 2 down to 13-9 is a better play than 24-20 if I'm gonna hit. But neither one does as well as just simply making the 5-point. But once again, the fates have overlooked my insanity and given me the 5-point I so wrongly eschewed a roll or two prior. All this stuff is playing itself, he says after casually tossing away 140 on the second roll of the game. Now with sixes, I can... I guess I pick up extra gammons by keeping one checker back and making the bar point, or I planned the bar point twice. Probably not a play I was going to find. That's a technical play that I kind of miss. I missed something similar earlier in the game, earlier in the match, where I could run with just one checker and make another interboard point. That's I mean, it's a leak, but it's the leak that you're barely aware of and happens infrequently enough. You don't work on it. With a 6-3, I can slot the 3-point here, and it kind of feels right for me to do so. Like, it's going to suck if I get hit, but he still has to escape 2 checkers there and also fill in the gap on his inner board. Meanwhile, anytime he misses, I've got at least 27 numbers that are going to be able to fill that in next roll. And lucky me, I got one of the 27 numbers. Now I can play 7-5 or 8-6. I can also try doing this with a 5-2, but I want to consider killing.
Yeah, this is correct. Sorry.
Yeah, I screwed up returning the checkers to their original position. Killing 6s is not terrible here because it'll allow you to play things more flexibly in the future. And the best ace is either 7-6 or 3-2. By the smallest of margins that could easily change on a rollout. Either of those plays are fine. We have a 3-1. Finally, time to clear the bar. And now Marty can get out with a 6-4. Well, he has the option of getting out with a 6-4. You can choose to keep your anchor back at the cost of killing 2 checkers, and XG says this is something that's going to give up even more gammons later. Meanwhile, I get to start to bear off while Marty cracks a bit. Marty runs. And now I have a 4-1 where I can make the ace points, I can rip off from the 4 points and play 2-1 hitting, or I can just simply clear the 6. And of those 3 plays, that 4 off and a hit was the one I probably considered for the least amount of time. And now I'm instantly regretting not putting up on the roof because just like that, he's gotten off the gammon and he still has some chances to be able to win the race, slim as they are.
And it's the equivalent of like the match after Crawford. The guy who's losing must double automatically.
Hey, so remember last game when I said nothing feels worse than rushing through a play and the bear off that you'd think you'd missed? So go back and watch the video on this next shake, this 4-4, and watch how quickly I play checkers off. Moving so fast, blah, blah, blah. And I play illegally. Shorting myself a checker that I needed to bear off. I should have borne 3 off, and instead I played them both in and took 2 off instead. That was pretty embarrassing and an illegal move, but obviously play kept continuing, so it was automatically accepted, and the game continues. But Marty gets to escape the gammon, and as such, all the way back from 8-1, all the way back from 10-6. It's now 10-10, and we are down to double match point, DMP, plus or minus some effins, depending on how you like your acronyms. But we battled. We made some errors in the last couple of games that we're not super proud of, but we've battled, we've hung in there. We're not letting anything about the match get in our way. We're just here to play some checkers, and now we just have to move stuff around the board. We don't even have to worry about the cue. I start with a 5-2, and even at DMP, this still gets you the most single wins, which is all you care about. We've been talking about the gammons or even the backgammon percentages and some of these XG analyses. At double match point, all that matters is what maximizes your wins. And splitting with the 5-2 is still right, even though your opponent can throw 5-5, can throw 3-3, put you up on the roof immediately, conduct a blitz. It'll still come out ahead. Both Marty's play in 13-8 are pretty much equivalent. As far as XG is concerned, I get to make the bar with 6-1, and I don't have to worry about such trifles. I get a miracle shot. Well, I hit the tough way. That's probably the better way of saying it. I hit the hard way. Marty gets to make an advanced anchor with his 3-1. And I get to make the 5-point with my 3-1. Pulling 2 down, pretty much on par with 13-9, 6-3. I get to... Oh no, that 6-3 would not have hit that, were that the case. Not that I'm being results oriented, I'm just saying. Marty enters with his double 4s, makes the 4-point, slots the 5. Now it's just about me playing as safely as I possibly can. Up 21 before the roll. And now with 15-13, 6-5, I just have to fade a 7 or an 8. I'm in decent shape. I can see I'm about a 3-1 favorite, and that's kind of how I felt over the board. You'd throw a double, and it'd be a questionable take right about now. Marty tries to extricate 1 while he makes a menacing 4-point board, and none of this is automatic, although I am in a good spot right now. And 3-1, I can't do anything productive that's safe. I do have the possibility of making the 10-point, but nowhere near just simply hitting and moving the checker to a safe spot. Marty gets his choice of enters and his choice of how to play the other die. In this case, doesn't care about leaving a blot on the 12. And I don't care about looking at the 4-point, which I never even considered. And making a 5-point here is obviously, it's huge. You've got a racing lead, you've got better containment, you've got better winning chances. And I just hit checker and 8.08 in the process. I clean up 6-2 reasonably well, but I would still really love to make a 4-point. Why couldn't I get a roll that would let me make the 4-point? Because I really need that. Marty slots the 2 with 4-2. I pad on to my already heavy 5 and 6 points. He consolidates and now has a 5-point board. I can make the 4 if I've had more than the few beers that I've already had. And a difficult 6-3. You can slot the ace, or you can start to run. Running looks like you're making yourself pretty vulnerable, but as long as that blot exists on the ace, you still got plenty of daylight. Even with the hit and cover numbers, there's still plenty of room for you to be able to enter. And again, you don't care about gammons. In this case, you lose a few less gammons by a few fewer gammons by running. You lose fewer gammons by running. There we go. And now I get to figure out what I want to do with double 3s.
That makes sense. But you're right. You gotta.
I can make 4 inner board points, and I can hit. I'm just not totally sure the best way to do that. This is tough. Because this is still 8 shots from the bar. It's still 11 shots in the bar if I say make the 4-point and the 3-point. But the benefit of that is that Marty still has 3 checkers back. I have unstacked my very heavy, very problematic 6-point. And I've made the very, very important 3-point. So this looks scary. But does it get more wins? And XG says, hey, it gets more wins. Win almost 3% more, making 2 points, even though it would have meant leaving a blot on your ace. As it is, I get missed. And now I just gotta hope I can make that point or do something that isn't terribly destructive. 6-2 technically falls into the ladder, although I am going to grumble about it for a little bit. Marty runs with a 6-5. Oops. Marty runs with a 6-5. Eventually I get back to the right play in the XG analysis. Playing with 5-3. Marty plays 6-2. Not leaping yet. I'm having great options with my 4-2, so I just rip a checker. And Marty's got his board ready for when I leave a shot. Unfortunately, the gods are giving me great big dice, and I'm not leaving any shots. Marty's still holding on, still waiting for a shot, just needs for it to come. And obviously it's such a frustrating feeling. You have a big lead in a match. You see it just whittle away. You still got to focus on the best plays you can possibly make. Unfortunately, sometimes the fates throw much better dice to your opponent than they do you. And somehow, despite all of this, with a giant comeback, just because you're a dog doesn't mean it's over. You're always in it to the last roll in backgammon. And we're going to see here in just a moment that, I played pretty good, but I still played worse than Marty. And I still ended up walking away with the win here.
Thanks, Marty.
Always a pleasure to play against Marty. Wow, what a match. Absolute marathon at just a hair over 2 hours, including breaks. That's really long for 11 points. You gotta stay focused. You gotta keep thinking about how you can make the best plays possible. Somehow we managed to do all that here and played pretty decently as a result. Marty played great as always. slightly above his normal average, which is under 3.5. That's. But it doesn't matter how well or how poorly you play. There's always plays that you can learn from, and there's always plays you want back too. So we'll go through those some more in the next video as we move on to the finals against David Kornwitz. It'll be 13 points. Stick around. Got an exciting finals for you too. This is Idiot Vig telling you that games only get tougher when you want to improve. See you next time.